Happy Sunday. Good to see you getting up so early. Cool. So day 6, we have finalized our posture, right? So we have, we understand what we're doing with our bodies. We even understand what we're doing with our eyes. We understand what we're doing with our respiratory system. We understand what we're doing with our vocal cords through the chanting. And so the physical element of this process is established. And for sure, as you commit more and more time to it and experiment and adjust and make it sort of more your own, it will become more and more natural, more and more powerful for you. I got a question the other day about hands, fingers for Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, the fingers actually touching the floor or just sort of resting on the knee, because for the student, touching the floor actually created a lot of distress in the body. They had to lean forward and then that wasn't right, so they reached their arm to the side. And so I just wanted to elaborate. Traditionally, when you look up this mudra or you see people practicing their mudra, their right hand, right, the upaya hand, is just resting on the knee, and the fingers are just sort of in the direction of the floor. They're not literally touching the floor. But for me, sort of trying to connect more to the potential experience of the Buddha itself, or himself, the legend is he touched the earth, and I think there's something powerful about having my fingertips actually making contact with the ground. But again, all of this is fairly subjective. It's arbitrary. It's art. You create it, you apply meaning to it, and it's really the meaning of what it is that matters. It's the meaning that encourages you to hold yourself in a certain way and participate with your practice in a certain way. And all of that is designed for one particularly powerful point, and that's what we're going to get into today. And so drishti, just to sort of connect again to that, we were practicing our gaze. And so we learned yesterday in a physiological sense that when we actively look at something, so it's always nice to make the instruction real, attempt to look me in the eyes right now. The second you focus into my eyes, your little irises dilate, there's a surge of wakefulness, and that's because your eyes, very much like your breath, are intimately connected with the nervous system. Everything is connected with the nervous system. But when you control your eyes, you consciously activate the sympathetic nervous system. You consciously activate to what the yogis was pingala, the solar or masculine or fiery energy of the body, and that creates a little bit of wakefulness, because in meditation the tendency is to drift into unconsciousness, to become a little less present than you would be if you were out and about doing things. And so the control of the eyes in practice really allows them to maintain this peak sense of wakefulness, which encourages their presence. But despite the fact that drishti has to do with seeing, we are trying to perceive a deeper truth. We're not literally trying to see it in the darkness of our closed eyes. The great point of this practice mystically is to recognize the secret truth of the world, which when uttered through words and sort of absorbed by the intellect is so expansive and almost so is immediately connected to terms like futile or erroneous or unnecessary, because truth, the underlying fabric of reality, it's so impractical, it doesn't seem to matter. Yet, I believe, at least you all, and I believe most people, are still curious enough about it from time to time, especially when those storm clouds come in our life, as we tiptoe into the twilight of our life, as we, or those around us are met or visited by death. We ask these questions because they're part of the human experience. And so the purpose of this practice has always been to recognize truth and to use the body and to use the way we see and to use the way we breathe to somehow facilitate that experience. And so now we'll get to today's point. There are 5 main obstacles that prevent the average person, the unpracticed person, from seeing truth, from experiencing sat. And these 5 obstacles are called the Kleshas. We're going to go over the first 2 today because they line up perfectly with what we've been doing. And so what we've been doing is we've been creating a regimen, we've been creating a system or a living embodied symbol that encourages, simply said, focus. And so what is the utility of focus? Why is focus so important and sort of shared and communicated as the prime tool across all meditative lineages? And that's because when you focus, a certain part of your brain turns off called the default mode network, and a certain part of the brain turns on called the task-oriented network. When the default mode network is on, your brain on its own subconsciously is processing you, the identity that you are, all your wants, all your desires, all your core beliefs, but more importantly, it's processing other people and other people's assumptions, your assumptions of their assumptions of you. And so it's trying to map out the social relationship, the social landscape that you exist within. And it's for that reason that the grimace of a stranger can actually affect you, that the comments on Instagram from people you hardly know can affect you, that we are swayed by the impressions and by the side remarks of people we hardly know and that really don't matter to us. It's because we're programmed that way. We're social animals. We want to fit in the tribe. Our health, our livelihood, our safety long ago mattered. It was deeply connected to our ranking within the world. And that still exists today as a shadow of that past, circumstance. And so when the default mode network is on, our brain, like the little computer that it is trying to figure all of that out, and it affects us, and it defines us, and continues to build upon that defining. When the task-oriented network is on, when you're focused on something or anything, you stop thinking about other people. You stop thinking about their opinions of you. You stop thinking about what you think their opinions of you are, and you stop thinking about your opinions of them. But most importantly, you stop thinking about yourself. And so I had a really powerful moment. I used to be very committed to jiu-jitsu. My brother and I would drive an hour and 45 minutes from Miami to sort of Broward County to go to one of the better schools. And one day my brother looked across the car from me and said, "Why do you like this? Why are we doing this? This is a lot of driving 3 times a week to go to like an hour class." And I sat there, and for whatever reason, I wanted to answer the question seriously. And what I discovered was it wasn't necessarily jiu-jitsu that I was so enthralled by. It was the fact that what jiu-jitsu provided me was a time where I literally wasn't thinking about anything, but I was also awake. I'm not unconscious. I'm not sleeping and not thinking of anything. I'm awake. I'm alive. I'm in my body, but I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about school. I'm not thinking about my relationships. I'm not even thinking about myself. And that is a really meaningful place to be mentally to all people. And for that reason, this is called flow state naturally. That reason people love flow state. A musician loves to lose themselves in playing their songs. An athlete loves to lose themselves in any game, frisbee, football, soccer, surfing. But it's not the hobby itself that matters, especially from a meditative standpoint. It's the fact that hobby provides us a conscious moment of forgetfulness where we actually lose track of our own being, which suggests that the burden is us. Mentally, what we are tired of is ourselves. And so this gets us to the Kleshas. That's a harsh statement that what the burden is us, but more specifically, what the burden is what we believe we are, who we falsely believe we are. And so the first klesha is asmita, it's ignorance, or avidya, it's ignorance. Avidya suggests you do not know who you are. You think you are your body, you think you are your name, you think you are your set of memories, you think you are your possessions, you think you are what your friends say about you, you might think you are what people you don't know, coworkers say about you, or your boss thinks about you. You think you are all of these external shells. That gets you into trouble. What you really are is something else, and that something else is the mystery of this practice. That something else is Atman, the soul. That something else is Sat, truth. That something else is emptiness. Then the second klesha, the second obstacle, follows this ignorance, and it's asmita, it's misperception. And so because you don't know what you are, but you are desperate to define yourself, which is a sort of ingrained prerogative, you start to attach from a very, very young age to things. The little baby, the newborn, starts to attach to words and to the mother and to the father and to its hands and to its legs and to its internal sensations of hunger and fatigue. And as we get older and older and older, if we are uneducated in the inner experience, which we often are, we only attach to the external. things that are always changing, always coming and going, and fundamentally shallow compared to the inner space. And so in this, we start to seek, but also forget we must seek a deeper meaning. And so the drishti, the posture, the chanting feeds us this inner meaning by providing us an education and a path into this inner space. And so what are we really? That's the nice question. All the gurus answer this question through riddles. And so Ramana Maharishi has a really beautiful point. What you are is emptiness. You are not the shell, you are not your name, you're not your body, you're not this and that, so on and so forth. And so he uses the example of a pot. And so when you take a pot and you carry it from point A to point B, you think that you are carrying the pot and the space inside it from point A to point B. But what really you're moving is just the pot. The space, despite the fact that the pot is moving across space, does not move. That pot, that space within the pot, which is your true identity, is motionless and still. And we've sort of talked to that in the previous sessions. When that pot breaks, when you die, or when you start to meditate and disassociate from your external associations, when that pot breaks, that motionless space that was never moved or contained merges one with all of space around it. And so that visual experience, that sense of moving and transitioning, but in inner stillness, gives us a visceral sense of what this inner point might feel like and might be experienced as. And all I can say for myself is when you're chanting, when you enter that flow state, when there's this blip of forgetfulness, and then you slingshot back out into a moment of sort of basic mindfulness and you listen to the world, the evidence that you've touched that truth or you've touched that emptiness within you is that external world is more beautiful. Why is it more beautiful? Because you've released your attachments to it. You've released your fixation on it, even your body, even your life. And for that reason, we'll cue it, or I'll cue it at the end. Think about your problems in a post-meditative state, the things you're worried about, the things that might keep you up a little later than you want to in bed. And in that meditative state, you'll be like, it's really not that bad. I have a lot more faith. I understand how small that all is compared to the deeper experience of life. And that sort of tolerance and embrace of even the negative is simply evidence, not the point, but evidence that you've achieved the point of your practice. You've touched that emptiness or Atman. Groovy, cool. So what we're going to do today is same stuff, no addition to the technique. Bhumi, Sparsha, Mudra. Maybe your fingers don't touch the floor. You can experiment with that if the pose was stressful. Use your drishti, look into the blackness of your eyes every time you reconnect to that, because I'm sure you'll forget. Notice it wakes you up. In the game, the eventual game would be, can I keep shunyata drishti alive throughout the entirety of my meditation? And then feel the vibration in your chest. Back to one of the first, the sloka that referred to the nadis, the energy channels of the body. Shatam chaikascha hridayasya nadyas. There are 101 channels of vibration in your chest. Focus on that. It's a nice place to put the mind. Alrighty, everyone. Happy to see you. Let's get into this. Position 1. Tall spine. Wrists rests on knees. Nice, super straight arms. Open hands. Palms rotate up to the sky. Settle into your body. Feel the vibratory nature of your fingertips. Nice place to start, and then control the breath, the tranquil breath. Breathe into the stomach and the chest, but avoid the collarbone. And immediately just consider these ideas. I don't know what I really am. I don't know how I exist. No one does. Nor do I know why I exist. It's not to work. It's not to earn money. It might not even be just to survive. Yogis and mystics believe there's a higher point, that the human being, because of their brain and because of their spirit, can recognize the divine. Anta karana, divine instrument. And when we do that, when we take that task upon ourselves, we are gifted with an unbreakable sense of accomplishment. No matter what, rich or poor, young or old, popular, unpopular, healthy, diseased, I know the divine. I know truth. And so you're feeling your body. When the experience of peace sprouts, just bring your hands to heart center, break your posture, honor it, and then come to Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. Left hand to the lap, right hand to the earth. And so what prevents that flow of peace, which is ever present in the mind of yogis and mystics? Life is only peaceful. It's only our false perception of it that creates good and bad. The fact that we don't know who we are creates that false perception. And as we desperately try to identify ourselves as bodies, as identities, as friends, as workers, and associate with other people's interpretations of us, duality becomes more obvious, more real. And 30 years, 40 years, 60 years down the line of building the world as two sides, the experience of peace, because of the way we built the world, comes and goes. And so to touch that constant stream of peace, we must forget the underlying problem. We must forget ourselves. How do we do that technically? Flow state. You have to focus. You have to understand what you're doing with your body and give your all to it. And so what are you doing? Chanting the Om, yes. But you're also feeling the Om. Strong posture. Perfect stillness. Stable breaths. And then feel instead of think. Feel Hridayasya. Feel your chest. And as you chant, it almost boils with euphoria. If you haven't brought your hands to heart center yet, no peace came, that's fine. Come to Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. Everyone look into the darkness of your closed eyes. Notice that little spark of wakefulness, which will support you in focusing on feeling. Feel the Om the way you smell a beautiful flower. Feel the Om the way you look out into a perfect sunset. Feel the Om the way you would hold the hand of a dear friend in grief. Take a peaceful breath in, infinite patience, gentle, quiet Oms. One more Om. Slow it down. Focus on feeling. The Om is called the Udgita, the celebrated song. And what it fundamentally represents is inclusivity. The Om is what started life and what will be their afterlife. The entire expression of the universe is contained within one utterance of this fabled syllable. And so we are contained within it. And it is complete, more complete than anything we can know. This is the idea. As you chant the Om, emotionally connect to that concept of wholeness. The great mystic approach to existential disappointment, grief, sorrow, insecurity, is by looking inwardly and redefining our relationship to the internal. The great cliche, which once we let our guard down, can be felt as real, at least when we are encircled within our practice, is that within your flesh, within your life, within your apartment, within your being, in this moment, the universe itself manifests. There is nothing outside you, nothing that can be attained that can't be attained from within you. And once you can line yourself up with this magical and fantastical idea that I am the universe itself, I'm not the tiny shell of my name. I'm not the seed of my body. I am the infinite space of thought and emotion, but more space within that. Once you can feel that, if you can agree to it and lift that experience higher up the hierarchy of your priorities, the Om takes different form. It becomes sincerely meaningful. Because now you're using it as a path to truth. You're using it as a tool to break avidya, ignorance, and break asmita, false association. It's a leap in logic and a leap in faith. So lengthen your spine, come back to your drishti, look into the darkness of your closed eyes, feel the nervous system respond accordingly. Consider you are only a seed that contains within its husk the infinite. There is nothing outside you. Let's chant 3 more Oms. Relax the body, feel the heart area. Hridayasya. Now sit in silence, listening to the world around you. So from internalizing, which is the technique of your practice, now you externalize. And in that contrast, you should experience the consequence of your efforts, both symbolic, physical, and intellectual. Notice the world's beauty. Notice that inner quiet. And so if you can feel an innate sense of gratitude for the newly recognized beauty of every ordinary moment, the divinity of every moment, consider philosophically it is because the veils of misperception have been thinned and the truth of the world, the miraculous nature of existence is shining forth. And all of that has happened because you've relinquished your grasping to false associations, to identity, and have started, unconsciously even, to associate as emptiness, as the space within the bowl, that motionless point that remains the same while the body and while circumstance adjusts according to the currents of life. And to bring your hands to heart center, and as you feel your body, and as you feel the atmosphere pressing into the body, and as you hear the world around you, and as your mind perceives the space you're in, your home, and the city you're in, and the circumstance you're in, consider that all of this is a shell, all of it is a bowl, protecting an inner point. And if you can feel that inner point, prioritize that. That, at least for now, is the most important thing. Thumb knuckles to third eye center. Focus technique. Separate your thumbs from the skin of your forehead by 1 millimeter. Try to feel the space in between. The radiating warmth of your body, skin to skin, vibration, tiny hairs. And so back to focus, back to the practicality, back to the neuroanatomy of this. The more you focus, the less you think of the world. The less you think of the world, the more likely nirvana. Nirvana, extinguish the self. Register any blips of amnesia, any blips of numbness. These are good signs. The flow state is sparking on. 5, slow down your breath. 4, 3, 2, release your wrists to your knees, position 1, random finger to each thumb. Closing by reminding ourselves that this is art. It is the creative expression of something transcendentally meaningful. That in these breaths you represent that inner experience, that inner infinity, that inner point of stillness and emptiness, and the truth that life is universally and unquestionably good. And that the ups and downs, the dramas of birth and death, of health and disease, of success and failure are only illusions, strange games that for whatever reason the world imposes upon the spirit. The game of practice, the game of mysticism, the game of yogic peace is to see past that game, to see past that show and display. And when you can see past it and somehow recognize the unifying face of the world smirks back at you, as if this was the entire point the whole time. And so sit as a yogi, confident, piercing eyes, look into the darkness. With an inhale, open your eyes and continue to pierce your world with that vision. And just consider there is something beyond the light that your eyes are picking up, something beyond the sensations your skin is experiencing. Blink your eyes, wash it away. Identity comes back to fill the empty cup. You have things to do, a Sunday to enjoy, duality to live through.